what point, right, do you sit on the internet and have all of these videos clipped up of you, all of your behavior posted on the internet over and over again, get harassed when you go out in public, when you simply go to the shops, right? When does it become enough to sack it off?
Do stuff like this to get yourself up in the rankings. Like, I mean, a lot of the stuff that you've seen nowadays is just people doing crazier and crazier things. Stuff changes. What we think is normal right now, in 200 years, people might go, fucking hell, what freaks.
Before we start, obviously, I just want to say that everything I'm speaking about in today's video is based off of Alice's statement. Alex himself has not replied yet, but I'm going to be talking about the evidence that I have seen already, that regardless of Alex's response is unacceptable and just disgusting. So I'm basically just going to start off by going through the evidence that Alice has posted in the 82-page document, and I highly recommend anyway that you guys go and look through it. Since Alice has posted that statement, there has been an issue with accessing the clips and documents, as basically with Google Drive, after you've clicked to view something a certain amount of times, it will then exceed the limit, and usually you can download it, but it has also exceeded the download limit. Luckily, I have everything on Twitter, I found, so we'll be able to just talk through what I feel needs to be spoke about. So I myself, before I had even seen Alice's actual statement, had basically been scrolling on TikTok, and her TikToks had come up on my For You page. One of them, I will show you now, caught my eye. Then there was also this one. And then there was also this one. Now, I have known of them two being together before, therefore I thought this was a little bit odd. I was reading the comments and noticed she had actually liked a comment that was asking if this was about Alex, and she also had mentioned Clare's law, which is basically a law that means you have the right to access information about whether someone you are with is down as someone who has been involved with domestic violence. So obviously people began to speculate about this. You know how the internet is. People were saying it wouldn't be Alex, he's too sweet for that, and people were getting angry saying, you know, if you're gonna make comments about a situation and imply someone's abusive, you should be explicitly saying that, as it's, you know, not technically fair to have people assume it's about Alex, because at this point we didn't really know. Although I understand from Alice's perspective why she did this. If you've been in an abusive relationship, sometimes you just need to vent, especially when that person is someone, like in this situation, who is a very online person. It makes it very difficult to just come out and say it. It's not a case of just being like, oh, I can just drop names right now. It's a very hard thing to do. So I can kind of empathize with why Alice had to begin with just not come out and straight said it. I get this, and I completely understand it. However, I do also understand the argument that at this point she should technically either not imply that it's Alex or fully imply, as it's a bit of a legal sticky situation. I myself had messaged Alice at this point, and I just wanted to check in with her, to which she never confirmed to me directly who this person was about, but almost in a mutual understanding, it was very obvious that yes, this experience was about ImAllexx. I basically just gave her my encouragement and said, look, I back you all the way. I completely understand how you are feeling, and I think if you want to speak up about this, like I'm sure she's had other people tell her, you are within your right, you would be doing a good thing for yourself, and I'm sure people will back and support you. Now, before the allegations had even been released in an actual statement, people were speculating, especially people on the commentary scene. Now, this is another situation which I don't want to speak too much on, but does slightly rub me the wrong way. I know a couple of commentary YouTubers, before Alice had even released a statement, had made YouTube videos basically alluding to the fact that some things happened with ImAllexx. And now I know people hadn't been the biggest fan of Alex due to the Slazo situation. So people are very fast to obviously jump on this topic for, you know, monetary gain. And I don't agree with making videos before you've got all the facts. I think, first of all, it's a stupid thing to do. And second of all, it's not fair on the people involved in any way, shape or form. As we know now, after all the ups and downs we've had throughout YouTube. Jumping on allegations before we've actually seen evidence is a very dangerous and silly thing to do. The 15th of June, Alice posted her final statement, of which we have been referring to so far. This was an 82-page statement that included text messages between both of them, which basically progressively got worse and worse throughout. First load of text messages were kind of just highlighting the dynamic of their relationship and how it wasn't healthy. And then as it gets further down, there are phrases and language used which, regardless of context, is inexcusable. Alice begins the statement by basically giving a roundabout description of what will be included in the statement, as well as confirming that the person we are talking about is Alex. Many of the first screenshots we see aren't actually that major. They aren't nice to look at, but they aren't as grand as what we go on to see further down. I think she included these. I've seen a few YouTubers talk about why did she include these. She included them because it gives a good dynamic on an abusive relationship. People saying, oh, why would you include these like petty arguments where you're just telling each other to fuck off, I don't think is a valid thing to say at all. Abusive relationships often start off with that dynamic. It's just someone telling you to fuck off, someone using just harsh language towards you, and then it progressively gets worse. And I actually think it was smart of Alice to include this, because it just highlights the dynamic between them. It highlights the way arguments would often go. And I think, although, yes, you may, as a YouTuber wanting to jump on this topic, you may find that boring to read through, but it's relevant. It's still not a nice thing to experience, being spoken to by someone who loves you in that tone. In this screenshot, you can see him talking to her in quite an aggressive way. Not much really to speak about this, but I think it just gives a quick perspective into what is going to unfold throughout this evidence. A little later in the statement, Alice gives us a little background into her mental health. She talks about how she felt it was made worse due to some of the names that she would be called by Alex. Some of these names that I saw in the evidence was calling her a whore, calling her unlovable, constantly calling her sick, as well as constantly telling her that he didn't want to be with her. She then said after all this verbal abuse, he would then turn around and say that he was sorry, basically beg for forgiveness, and then love bomb her. A lot of people have been saying about this, why would you stay with someone who calls you all these names? I just want to give a little kind of background into the reality of abusive relationships. When you are in an abusive relationship, often there is a dynamic created called a trauma bond. It is where you, for looking back after you have broken up with them, you look at it and you think, what the fuck was I thinking? But at the time, there is so much anxiety, there is so much manipulation, there is just so much going on, and you become so little in that relationship. You become so kind of stuck on the idea that this person is better than you need them, that you don't want to leave them no matter what. You make excuses for their behavior. You look at it and you think, maybe I deserve to be called that because of something that I did to upset them. It is never as simple as telling somebody to just have left earlier. And I urge you that if you are one of these people that leaves comments like that, or, even subconsciously thinks it, it's not like that at all. It's not as simple as that. And just that's one thing that I want to express via this video, is just to think about the attitude you have towards the victim in situations of domestic abuse. In relation to Alice talking about her depression, she goes on to talk about how often when she would have to approach Alex with the fact that she was struggling with her depression, she states that she had to watch her tone when talking to him, as he would often have quite a distaste to her explaining that she was really struggling. Now, this is something that honestly I don't really know where to start with. I think, to me, it signifies the fact that, based on what Alice is saying, by using anger and annoyance every time Alice would state she was depressed, it's basically teaching Alice that she can't ever express her feelings if they are negative. And again, it's just another very manipulative tactic. If you're in a relationship like that, it then means that you as a person can't grow or heal from your mental health. And it's sick and it's scary, and all I can say about that is that I hope Alice is doing better after that and now free to, feel how she wants to feel. The narrative of the statement continues as she continues to add in other screenshots of where the conversation gets a little bit more hard to read. Another running motif through the messages is Alex telling Alice to die or kill herself. Although in many of these screenshots, the context of the argument isn't entirely clear. People may say, hey, you know, I want to see the other side to this. I want to see what Alice was saying in other screenshots. And that is a completely valid thing to think. However, I would say that there is no context where telling your partner or anyone in your life to kill themselves and die, especially knowing they're suffering with mental health problems, is acceptable. The thing people can learn from this is that, yes, context is important. Yes, knowing the full story is important. But one of the reasons why Alex is being dumped on so hard right now, rightfully so, is because regardless of what Alice has said, regardless of what Alice may have also done and not included, Alex should not be telling somebody to die. Alex should not be telling someone to kill themselves. And especially as a person who preaches online about other people and morals and virtue and being a stand-up guy, it's disgusting. And I, for one, in the commentary scene, seeing someone who I'm never going to explain as, you know, being on my level or being in my circle, it was never a case of that, but seeing someone who is in the scene or was friends with my friends talk to a woman like this is vile. And yeah, another thing to kind of mention is that in the screenshots we are seeing Alice's response 99% of the time are very tame in replying to Alex and his abusive language. She is better than me. Being told to die over and over again by someone you love, that's a really fucked up thing to go through, and I can't even imagine what that is like. Another thing you may have seen circulating YouTube is the video where Alex describes himself as an internet celebrity.
And you think you can just fucking ignore them because, like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I don't know. Your boyfriend's a fucking famous internet celebrity and doesn't trust these people.
Basically, in the statement, Alice goes on to describe that Alex and her would often have arguments that would be centered around Alex's work. He actually goes on to reference his YouTuber friends while arguing with Alice, saying, imagine trying to teach the arsler like you and my mates how to do this. Obviously, we can't be 100% certain, but I do believe that in this quote, Alex is referencing how he would often talk to his friends in a way that was implying that he thought he was the ringleader of commentary, which I think is quite evident from some of the videos we've seen about how he talks about himself.
What judging mental is, I think I may have said like 100 times to the point where it's actually really hard to follow what I'm saying because it's so flexible. I've gone, you could do this, but you might be able to do that, but you might be able to do that, and you might be able to do this, and this might work, but you might be able to do that. And it sounds fucking mental. I don't even understand how you could possibly actually follow along to it. Like most of my friends struggle to actually understand what I'm saying. But that's why I'm a professional and you're all not.
Referring to yourself as an internet famous celebrity, talking about how he can't trust people, trying to give Alice advice on her Twitch, telling her that she should just listen because he's done it all before. It's all very centered around him being really intelligent, him being the ringleader of commentary, which is insane to think. Behind closed doors is looking down on other YouTubers, talking down to Alice and her work, for example, when in reality, you would think someone at that size with that success would know better than to talk down about his friends. I think that is insane. Another way of just showing that, yes, he was abusive to Alice, but he was also just a terrible, terrible friend. I think it's important because it just shows his narcissism. It shows how he was at the center of everything in his own mind. As the statement develops, there are more and more screenshots included that display abusive language and abusive behavior. One thing that really riled me up was his use of constant misogynistic language, which I think, Alex, you are just a cretin, ultimately. Looking at the way you talk to your girlfriend, you talk to a woman in general, referring to her as a dog. I'll show you this clip.
Thing about you, and this is the thing, and this is why I fucking go round and round in circles. I join call, and when you're talking to me, going, this is the thing, even though now, when it's too fucking late, you admit that you did everything fucking wrong. But when it actually matters, when you should lay down like a good fucking dog, you don't fucking do it. You fight for some reason. I don't know why you fight, because you're losing, because you end up admitting that you fucked it all up anyway. So it's just fucking weird. And I know that you're going to end up admitting that you fucked it all up, which is why
in the screenshots, he also calls her a dumb whore, a psychotic freak, a bitch, and a dog. And I think for someone, Alex, who has built a community of, I would assume, many women, a lot of my viewers are women, and a lot of young, impressionable girls too, to think that you talk and think of women in such a low manner that you would refer to one of them, especially someone who loves you, as a dog is disgusting. And again, I'll go back to the fact that yes, we do not know the full side yet. We haven't heard Alex's side, but I think regardless of what statement Alex comes out with, regardless whether it comes out and Alice has said some stuff to Alex, there's no reasoning to be calling a woman a whore, a dumb bitch, a psychotic freak, and a dog. And I completely understand why there are many viewers out there who are very upset with this behavior and saying, you know, oh, I've just lost a YouTuber that I really like. However, I would like to emphasize that when discussing this situation, it is sensitive to perhaps consider that although yes, you have lost a YouTuber, and I agree, even as a commentary YouTuber myself, there does seem to be, from what we are seeing, there seems to be a pattern emerging with commentary YouTubers. So I completely understand how people are frustrated that yet another one of their commentators has turned out to be a terrible person. Having said that, just remember to focus on the fact that there is still a victim at the center of this, and although it is okay to be upset that someone you liked has turned out to be an asshole, just remember that your focus shouldn't be entirely on that, and that it is more than just your favorite creator being exposed. There is a girl, Alice, who has been put through torment for months and months. Again, I'm going to show you another clip that Alice included where he threatens Alice with violence. Again, no man or woman should be threatening anyone. I do think in an argument as a man, though, threatening a woman, when that is caught in 4K quality, there is not really a way you can talk yourself out of that.
That's to me, and that's something you really need to fucking fix.
I'm gonna fucking bash your fucking head against the wall with a brick if you don't shut the fuck up. Because this one, genuinely, this one, you fucked this, royally fucked this.
I can't potentially see a reason as to why that would have been in any way, shape or form acceptable, and therefore people arguing about context, I think, need a little bit of a reality check. This clip is wild because as we see from Alice talking, she does absolutely nothing to warrant that kind of response and reaction. She speaks very calmly, she is disputing him, and we don't know what happened in the call prior, but as again stated, from the evidence we are seeing in that video, there is no reason for a man to be talking to his girlfriend in a manner like that. I think what's also interesting is he doesn't even just threaten her. He's not saying, I'm gonna hurt you or anything kind of light. Not that that would be acceptable, but he sits there and he blatantly, graphically describes wanting to smash her head against a wall with a brick. And the way it just comes out so easily too, it's one of those things where it's like, this is like a deep-rooted issue within himself. So in the latter half of the statement, it is basically focused around Alex trying to claw it back in and kind of go back on everything that has happened. Now, he does seem to apologize, and it's for reasons that we don't quite know for sure. He basically spams her on multiple social media accounts, asking her to talk, asking her to reply. You can see that it actually happens over multiple days. From what it looks like, he sends her an Amazon gift, and on the note, it even says that he's sorry and he's apologizing. And my guess is that Amazon note came with a gift, which is, again, a very manipulative thing to do. Although Alex doesn't seem to specifically apologize for each and every one of his actions, he is constantly admitting that his behavior is wrong, that he is ashamed, and is sorry for how selfish he has been. It seems in these screenshots, and this is just my opinion, that Alex has seen perhaps one of these TikToks that was posted and reacted in a way of fear, knowing that there is a potential he may be exposed for his behavior. Interestingly, there is one part of the screenshots which I really did struggle to follow, where the subject of Alice having allegedly hit Alex is brought up. But instead of Alex saying, hey, you hit me, you're a horrible person, you're a whore, he turns around and he says, I stayed silent about that, and it isn't enough, making me think that he is using this situation, which I don't know whether it is true or not. It doesn't seem to be confirmed whether Alice did hit Alex or she didn't. I couldn't quite infer what the truth was in this situation. I think him doing this and mentioning the fact that he is accusing her of hitting him is to basically plant a seed of doubt that if she dares speak up, that will be the narrative that he runs with. It's a perfect way to manipulate someone using fear-mongering tactics tactics that basically means, hey, if you dare to talk about all the abuse I put you through, I'll mention the fact that I'm accusing you of hitting me. And obviously, I just want to preface by saying, if Alice has hit him, obviously that isn't acceptable behavior, but I would also like to delve into the fact that reactive abuse is something that I've seen on Twitter, many people seem to not understand. Reactive abuse is basically when you are pushed to a limit after being abused, and then that person will take an action that you have done that is wrong in reaction to their abuse to use it against you as if you are the abuser. I'll give an example of this to help you maybe understand. I was with a partner, as I've mentioned before on this channel, which is why it means so much to me, who was abusive and used these tactics. One time we had been in a fight and he had screamed in my face over and over again, telling me to fuck off, calling me a cunt, calling me a bitch. The first time I ever had shouted back at him after months and months of abuse, he turned around and he stood there and he looked at me like he was terrified of me and basically said that event had terrified him for life and that I was a really scary person because I had snapped and shouted back at having been shouted at for months and months and months. And that is the type of thing that then makes you sit there and think, oh fuck, like I'm a horrible person. Like I yelled at him, now I get why he's horrible to me. Now I can't speak out about it because if I say this person abused me, he's gonna turn around and say she shouted at me. It's a mind fuck thing that people use, and it is really unfortunate because I know for a fact that there is probably someone watching that has been through abuse that has had this tactic used against them, man or woman, to help keep them not say anything. And I just want to say, if you are one of these people that can relate to that situation, reactive abuse is a very, very big thing. It is something that, yes, a lot of people will dismiss, especially when they want to support the person who is being accused. They'll say, hey, there may be people out there that like Alex and would want to back Alex still, and they could turn around and say, well, Alice, you know, you're not completely innocent because you supposedly hit Alex, and we don't even know if that's true or not. That's not something that I can decipher from these screenshots, but you get my point. Another thing that he says, which kind of feeds into this, is he says, do you not want us to move on? In reference to Alice speaking to people about this situation. Again, another manipulative thing to say. Her speaking up, Alex, does not mean that she doesn't want to move on. It doesn't mean she's stuck on you. She's stuck on your actions. This is another thing abusers often like to do. It's kind of present this idea that they're the bigger person, that they're trying to move on, and that actually you're still talking about it and you're still traumatized by their actions. Oh, well, you must be stuck on me. You must not be able to move on. And actually, you're stopping me from healthily moving on. Although he doesn't essentially in these screenshots directly say, hey, can you stop talking to people about it? Hey, can you stop posting screenshots or hinting towards it? In my opinion, what I take from this, it looks as if he is asking someone who he has abused for a very, very long time to not talk. Now, obviously, now we know that Alice has spoke, and I'm really happy that she didn't fall victim to these manipulation tactics, because that could have been very, very awful for future people that could potentially get involved with this person. Since other ex-partners of Alex have actually spoken up on Twitter, I'm not going to go through their statements individually because that is a whole other segment to this. However, I would like to add that it does add a level of believability to Alice's statement when there are multiple women coming forward. I would also like to mention that recently on George Clark's story, he actually released a statement saying that he had heard Alex speak to Alice in a way that wasn't very nice. He just claims to have not known the extent of the situation. Again, this kind of odes to the fact that even outside of relationships, Alex was not someone who people really got along with. I think this is also something we can see in ImAllexx's statement, where he describes them as having a very toxic friendship. And I think from what I'm seeing, it's very clear that many of his friends had problems with him separate to the allegations made from Alice. The next thing I want to talk about, which I know I'll probably receive comments about, is the leak that Alex saved as the racist N-word on his phone. Now, I'm not even going to delve into this entirely because I think it's completely separate to the issue. I just wanted to mention it before any of you do. And yes, obviously, I don't condone racist language, but in this situation, it is very likely by people who want to already discredit Alice, it is very likely to be used against her in a way that makes her seem invalid. And that is why I think it should be kept separate to this story of allegations. Therefore, I'm not gonna go into it. Okay, there we are. Again, I'm sorry if that felt very point to point, but I wanted to keep it as kind of factual and concise as I can by going into what we are seeing, what we have been shown in Alice's statement about Alex. I'm gonna end the video just by saying a few personal things about how I feel about the situation. It makes me sad, and I'm trying not to get upset about it, but obviously, I never want these kind of videos to seem like I am diverting the attention to myself. Absolutely not. There is a charity linked on this video, a fundraiser for domestic violence, which I'm not asking anybody to donate to, but it is there if you want to. Just because, you know, this is one situation we have seen where someone has shown evidence that they have been put through a lot, and it is the sad reality that many people, not just women across the world, are subjected to domestic abuse. I was in an abusive relationship for 2 years, which was physically abusive, sexually abusive, and emotionally abusive, and watching someone on a platform that I have recently joined who, you know, even as someone before I was a YouTuber I looked up to. I wouldn't say he was one of the reasons I started doing YouTube, but he was definitely an influence, and you can have your opinion on that alone. It's a very heartbreaking situation. It breaks my heart that this entire time I haven't known about it, and I have thought of Alex in, you know, the same way I view all the other commentators, and I just feel, I guess, this guilt about Alice, because if I obviously had known, I would have done anything I could to help her, anything I could to encourage her to come out about it. And I guess just being on the sidelines and seeing what has been happening when you haven't realized, even if there's nothing you could have done in the first place, is just a really tough situation. But yeah, I'm just going to end it again by saying, go and just look at Alice's statement, read it. The best thing that can happen is that people discuss it and it's shared around, and not in like a cancel culture type way, because I think this is way beyond that. This is just an awareness in general for how domestic abuse can go so easily under the carpet. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. I hope it was as clear as I can possibly make it. And yeah, I will hopefully see you guys soon. Thank you for watching.